And we are on YouTube now, Mayor Rochford. Good to proceed.
Good, but thank you very much, Monsieur Trottier, and welcome council to this meeting of February 8th. And on that note, Madam Clerk, we're ready to proceed and call the meeting to order.
I require a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Kelly and seconded by Deputy Mayor Trahan. That the draft agenda presented to council and dated the 8th day of February 2022 be adopted as prepared.
All in favor? C'est bon. Thank you so much. I do believe we'll be going into camera at the end of the session. Yeah. Accepting the minutes of the previous meetings, Madam Clerk.
Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Champagne and seconded by Councillor Lougheed. That the minutes of the regular council meeting held January 25th, 2022 and the special council meeting held January 27th, 2022 be adopted as circulated.
All in favor? C'est bon. Thank you so much. Any business arising from the minutes? Oui, Councillor Champagne.
Just an update. I was away on the weekend, and I just got the information and the mapping from the new Algonquins that I was going to bring forward. So I didn't make the meeting in time for this agenda. So at this time, we're going to have something. We'll have it this week coming, so that by the next meeting, we'll have the motion. I'll have the motion written up, and it's to. I want to be perfectly honest here that I'm doing this to represent my municipality, to make sure that our recreation properties stay as recreation lands. Talking about 303B, 302A, 83F1, 83F2, and 83F3. To sit on this committee and to be part of it, I'm there just for one reason, that's to represent my municipality. And I want to make sure this happens. We've been at this fight long enough, and it's hopefully it's the last kick of the cat to make sure that our residents are well taken care of, and we've done whatever we can as far as council to protect these lands. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Champagne. Any other comments related to the business of our last two meetings? I do want just to maybe call on Monsieur Trottier, just to give an update. There was a new position created as a result of one of our meetings, maybe just to advise if it's been filled and just brief details on that.
Okay, Mayor and Council, at the special meeting, I brought forward a plan for reorganization with a new position for Director of Community Services, and Greg Curtin was promoted to that position of Director of Community Services. So on a go-forward basis, he would oversee bylaw enforcement, the building department, as well as Parks and Recreation. So we do have Greg on the meeting with us tonight. So I'd just like to congratulate Greg on his promotions. And I look forward to working with him and transitioning those departments over to Greg.
Yes, well done with the thumbs. Let's all do that. I can do that too. There we go. So,
thanks a lot, Jason. I'm really looking forward to it, and thank you to all of council. And I know we'll make some good progress on all the items we have to get working on this year. So thank you very much.
Congratulations. Declarations of conflict of interest. There being none. Chair's comments. There being none. Delegations of council to council. There being none. Committee reports. There's none for Public Works. However, okay. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor. Just letting you know, staff put out a brochure to all our residents concerning the garbage bag problem and the lack of containers that are acceptable for the garbage pickup. Is there any comments from council about that? What would you like the next step to be? Because quite frankly, the committee has recommended that the garbage pickup people be advised not to pick up bags that are not in a suitable container. Just like some comments about that's now Steve Trahan and I are on the committee, and I'd like comments from other councillors if possible, please.
I just saw your. I'm sorry. I just saw your flyer. Was there a flyer that went out? Mayor?
It had color.
No, that's good. That's good that we're doing something. It's again, tomorrow's garbage day. There's snow plows going by, and whatever happens, we never talked about this before, but if the bags are out there, it's bad enough. The garbage cans, when the plows go by, they get torn up and hit over. But I mean, as far as just the garbage bags themselves, they're gone. So we'll be picking up in the springtime. So this is a really good. I'm glad you guys have a handle on it and get this done.
Well, Councillor Lougheed?
Yeah, Councillor Kelly, is there, my husband got rid of that piece of paper too quick for me to look at it. But was there a date that you were hoping to start enforcing it? Because I just think that we should give people some time because proper receptacles are expensive. And I just thought maybe we can give people a little bit, like a paycheck or two, to just make sure that they can get that covered.
That come up, and I agree, and the committee agreed wholeheartedly. But we're looking at, I think 3 to 4 weeks would be adequate time, which would put us at the end of February, if council's agreement, because that gives people time to go and get a couple of garbage boxes. I mean, they make really good garbage boxes now, that not boxes, garbage cans, that the lids lock. They're almost raccoon proof, which is really hard to do. So, but I agree, a couple, 1 or 2 paychecks, but I think a month is adequate time to prepare. That's my own feeling, but I'd like a consensus around the table, please.
Council, I think everyone's in agreement that there be sufficient time provided.
Everybody agree with that? Okay,
Yes.
we'll pass it on to the Public Works Committee. And Steve, you're good with that?
Yeah, I would just say, probably say March 2nd, that lands on a Wednesday, and I know there's garbage pickup on a Wednesday in Corbeil. So.
Okay, I think that's adequate time, and we'll put, and I will advise Antoine of our decision. That's okay. Thank you very much.
There being no further comments, we will proceed. There was no meeting of Community Emergency Management or Fire and Emergency Services. Planning Advisory Committee of Adjustment, no meeting. We come to Recreation, Parks and Culture, and there was a meeting with minutes, and so we turn it over. Councillor Kelly, before we move on, you want to say something?
Thank you. Sorry for the interruption, but back to Fire and Emergency Services. We have a new retired ambulance in service now as a new emergency first response vehicle. As you know, it's one of the best deals we get because the vehicle is taken care of bumper to bumper, including fuel, which is, I think fuel's down to $6,000 a gallon now, so which is really great. But fuel is extremely expensive. All maintenance on the vehicle is taken care of, as well as the medical supplies on the vehicle by the Department of Health. So and the ambulance service. So that's a big deal, and it's a real caveat for, I think, the chief and his staff, because this is our second ambulance, second or third retired ambulance, actually. So third, exactly. Thanks, Steve. Our third retired ambulance, and a lot of fire departments are not in this, they have not taken advantage of these vehicles. So we've come a long way. Our department has, and it's a great training vehicle. And at times we've used it to consolidate staff, use it for warming or a cooling center in the summertime, warming in the winter, obviously, and stabilize any of our patients if they're out in the cold. So it's been a valuable resource the fire department has valued. Thank you. But hats off to the chief and his staff.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. C'est bon. So now we move to Recreation, Parks and Culture. Councillor Champagne.
Thank you, Mayor. Welcome aboard, Greg. You're going to be a great help. I can see it coming. There was 3 items that were brought in. One was the active transportation. The board did not receive their the presentation at this time, but I believe they were getting sent out. I don't know if they got it in the last few days or not, but it was going to be sent out after the meeting. The second item was a letter from the Losmanson Curling Club to looking at an HVAC system or a study for it. There's some venting issues upstairs and downstairs. I think the CEO was down there last week and had an opportunity to see what the issues are down there. So I believe the staff is looking into it, and hopefully we get some pricing in, and hopefully some funding comes available to see what we can do. A lot of it's downstairs, but a lot of it's also on the curling club where we get a lot of humidity, and it seems to make the ice change fairly frequent, and the doors are not sealed properly. Some ventilation will be needed at some point. They can work with what they have now, but we'll take a look at the study and see what's available. Obviously, we got to take a look what the numbers are and what it's worth. The third item we had on there is the curling club. For the last couple of years, I've been taking a little bit of a beating because of COVID. Last year, especially, and then this year, they lost the whole month of January. So they wrote a letter, and then the board or the committee agreed, and they passed it unanimously. I got a tooth missing. So at the end of the day, they want to open in April, and other clubs are open in April. And we had a valve installed a couple of years ago that would separate the main rink from the curling club. So it allows us to stay open later if the rink isn't open itself at the arena. So they're going to extend it into April, and they're going to have some bonds field and things like that. They've been paying their rent all along. They've never stopped paying rent. They've even though through COVID, they've been there for us, and we've been there for them in the past. And they're the club is going well. Start with the president, Paul Mariner, has turned this whole club around, and there's a lot of members that are seniors and mix and the junior curlers. And the rink is used 6 days a week, so there's only Sundays available, and that's usually for ice maintenance, and it doesn't allow them to make up games. So they need the month of April to work it, and they're doing a study on the hydro usage. So we'll find out by next year if they want to stay open into April. Then they'll know what the usages are, and then they'll accommodate the rental agreement upon that. That's all I have for now, unless CEOs want something to say about what the situation. But I think there's a motion out there that hopefully that we recommend that the rink, the curling club, can stay open for the month of April.
We do have two motions before us that have been prepared. One for exactly as you've mentioned, Councillor Champagne, and the other one for participation. We could put them on the table and then open it up to any questions or comments, if that's all right with everyone.
Well, for sure, and I apologize for that. That was the fourth item, and I only said 3 for participation. Yeah, we have for the grant approval. Yes, and we got to get the people out there to work with us. I know that one of our committee members, she was on there pretty steady last year, Mrs. Saint Denis. She was pretty active, and so have you, Mayor, and Ron, and a lot of the other members. So hopefully this year we can, and I'm going to get on board like I did. A lot of people don't know about it, and it's nice for a little municipality to have that kind of numbers. I think we finished 3rd, I believe, now. So hopefully get the push on and finish 1st.
Right. Ben, c'est bon. Ben, on that note, let's put forward, Madame Clerk, the first resolution.
I require a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Champagne and seconded by Councillor Kelly. Whereas the Recreation, Parks and Culture Committee recommended to Council to approve the request from the Nosbonsing Curling Club to extend the curling season for this year only to the end of April 2022, be it hereby resolved that Council approves of this recommendation.
Any questions or comments before we vote on this? I don't, wait, Councillor Kelly.
I just want to say that the club is a great asset, and it's run by volunteers. And once again, when we look at lifestyles in East Ferris, we're second to none, quite frankly, with all the different groups of physical work and so forth that we have going, and volunteers. And they do things that we couldn't afford to do if we had to follow it on the taxpayers. So
Yes, exactly.
hats off to the volunteers that make, and these are assets. So I'm fully in support of it. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I simply want to add that it's good that we're going to use it as well for a study for, and so that's going to be very useful in that sense. So all in favor? Councillor carried, c'est bon, thank you so much. Moving on, we come to the participation resolution motion, Madame Clerk.
Thank you. Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Trahan and seconded by Councillor Lougheed. Whereas the Recreation, Parks and Culture Committee recommended to Council that an application be submitted by municipal staff for the 2022 Participation Community Better Challenge Grant, and that the committee and future participation subcommittee are committed to working with municipal staff on this initiative. Be it hereby resolved that council approves of this recommendation.
Any, wait,
Did you
Councillor
wanna-
Champagne?
Yeah, did you want to speak on this, Mayor? Because you got a handle on exactly what this is all about. To
Well,
get it out to the public.
but certainly as part of our community safety and well-being plan, as we're trying to put forward a program to encourage well-being in our community, we had thought that given our experience to date as a municipality, that it would be good if we carried on and participated in this program, because it does encourage physical activity, it does encourage well-being. And so that certainly was the basis. And then it will allow us annually to see how we do, if we can progress. So they do all of the measurements, so we don't have to measure it. It assists us in that sense as well for keeping statistics and so on. They can tell us exactly who's downloaded the app in our community, how many people are participating. I should mention that just before Christmas, there was a challenge called the Yukon Challenge. And it was like 2 weeks where you're members of a team and online you participate. And it was a Canadian challenge, and it's a team from Corbeil that won the Canadian challenge. And so, I mean, we're not doing this because of the prizes, but there are prizes. So the whole team won a paid trip for 5 days to Yukon. So, I mean, it's an example. So they're from Corbeil. I don't know all their names, but so it's an example of there are certainly benefits, but there's prizes as well for the people who participate. And so we would be applying for a grant. It's not a large grant, but it's $1,000 that will help us to do the promotion of the program and to buy any games or anything that would be required to help us organize the games.
But don't forget, at the end of the day, it's $100,000 prize if you finish in first place for the municipality, right?
Yeah, so sorry, correct, Shaw, thank you. Wait, well, you know it very well. There we go. No problem. Yes, well, ultimately, yes, that's what, good, well said.
Yeah.
Any comments other than, and I should say that when we did it we didn't do it last year, or what did we did last year? The municipal staff also participated, and I understand, just while he's on the line with us, I think Mr. Trottier would say that Mr. Curtin and was it as well Carrie, Mrs. Hanselman, they were very active, and it became very competitive as well at a staff level, which is also important, that we encourage well-being at a staffing level. So we encourage them to continue. I think all this form of nice competition is always good to help each other move forward.
Is there dates for this, Mayor?
It's in June. So the Better
June.
Community Challenge is in June. And I do believe it's June 1st to the end of June, if I recall. And so, yeah, Monsieur Trottier saying yes. So, but the grant application we have to have in by, I think it's the February 21st, I think, or something of the sort, Monsieur Trottier.
Yeah.
Yeah, close to that, yeah.
So basically, if there are no other questions or comments, all in favor? C'est bon, thank you so much. I just also wanted to mention, Monsieur Champagne, that we did have the formal announcement of the funding from the Ministry of Northern Development, Mines and Forestry, MNDMF, from the NOHFC grant program for $548,000 that went towards the repairs of the roof trusses, the addition of lead lighting, and for as well repairs to the kitchen at the East Fairs Community Center. I would really like to congratulate Monsieur Trottier, who did, this is a lot of work. These applications are a lot of work. And I saw again here what went into this one. I would really like to thank you, because if you don't apply, you don't get it. And sometimes you say, oh my gosh, it's too much work. But I mean, it certainly was well worth it. That this is an important amount of money for us, as this, we well know, council, that this was an expense that was maybe unforeseen, that we were not expecting, that came out of the blues, in other words. So thank you very much, Monsieur Trottier, and all of the people, the staff that were involved in ensuring that we did get this funding for.
Thank you.
This is all provincial money, right?
These funds are provincial money. Wait, thank you. And I saw Councillor Lougheed had her hand up. Wait.
Just thinking about that HVAC system, I have a feeling that that's going to be something that's going to be requested at other buildings as time goes on, because, you know, COVID's airborne. And I know that I'm just putting it in the back of my head that, you know, to start thinking ahead somehow about how we might have to change few other buildings maybe, or consider HVAC elsewhere. That's it. I know that the new municipal building has higher end, but in terms of like, I don't know, library,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
some other areas too, that might require that in the future. Just saying that.
But it's good,
Thanks.
Councillor Lougheed, because what I understand, Councillor Champagne, that it was also a motivation for the curling club to put forward this particular request as part of the various items that Councillor Champagne mentioned. So it's a good point you make. Thank you so much. I see Jason writing, so I'd say he's taking a good note. Any other comments before we move on? But Councillor Champagne, you should finish by mentioning the snow sculpting.
Oh, sorry,
event?
yeah. Yep, it's, I believe it's on the website. Yeah. So again, it's for the family day weekend, and if anybody want to register, they have to register by the Friday, which is the 19th. You can do it online through the municipality or
18th.
Pardon me?
18th
The 18th
is a Friday.
is a Friday. Sorry, yes, you want it in by 3:30, I believe. Oh, sorry, 2:30.
I'd have to go back to Facebook to see the post. It's around that time. The reason being, then we can get a list of addresses ready before end of day, and then circulate to anybody who's judging and going around from house to house. So that's why the deadline. I believe it might have been 2 or 3 o'clock on that day, or noon.
Yeah, I had put down 3:30, and yes, suggested an hour earlier, so I believe it was 2:30.
Okay.
Yeah. No, sorry, but thank you, Pauline, for mentioning that. I forgot all about it, actually. No, I didn't forget about it, but I mean, I forgot about mentioning it tonight.
No, but it's out there. It's being promoted. So well said. So, but thank you very much. We'll move on now to Economic Development Committee. Deputy Mayor Trahan, if you have any comments.
Not at this time. Unless Greg's want to touch base on a few things, but we're good right now, thanks. But put it this way, there's no update for internet.
I do want to say
I
that.
don't
Well,
have
thank
anything,
you.
I don't have anything for that, so.
I mean, on that note,
You want to mention, go ahead, Greg.
No, thanks, Deputy Mayor Trahan. I think the only main thing that we'll discuss is the update to the animal control bylaw, which will come up in the bylaw section, but we can have a detailed conversation about that during that part.
Thanks. Yeah.
but certainly that's excellent work, and it's good that this bylaw is back this evening, and we'll be able to look at it in details in a few moments. Just to mention on internet, Deputy Mayor Trahan, you were right that Bell, it was in March, and so we saw that email from them. We did send in, as per council, feedback to the provincial government with respect to some of the issues for internet in our area. We did get some feedback from Net Spectrum. They basically mentioned that if anyone notices that there's staking that has been taking place on along Corbeil Road, we just got this about half an hour ago, so I apologize if it's not been yet shared with anyone, but so I bring it forward. They're saying that this is where there's going to be poles installed into the ground, and there's going to be aerial fiber installed along Corbeil Road. And they mentioned that there was already, just before Christmas, 50 houses that were hooked up to internet. And they say that there's a number of new installations waiting for the frost to leave, so that the trenches can be dug into where the houses are on the customer's property. So this is an update from, and I'll send that to you, Deputy Mayor Trahan, right after the meeting. But so some good developments, but certainly we're waiting as well for Bell, as was mentioned. So on that note, we'll move to Communications Committee. We had a committee meeting, and I turn it over to Councillor Lougheed.
Yes, it was a short meeting. We reviewed a communique as promised about Castle Home, and we all agreed that at this time we'll just put it in draft form and keep it handy because, you know, things are kind of settled down and there's a direction that people are comfortable with, and we'll hold on to that if it's needed. It's really good to have handy. Other than that, we also just reminder that if any events or interesting things are happening about the community newsletter, but there are some neat things happening in the next few months. The newsletter is coming out, I think, in April, or will be getting organized to go out for April. So there is some time, just a reminder to keep that in the back of your mind.
Well, any comments or questions? C'est bon. Thank you so much, Councillor Lougheed. On that note, we moved to municipal office project. I don't believe there's no report as such, but I don't know if anyone went to Corbeil this afternoon, you would have noticed that all of the walls for the new municipal office are up. It's always so surprising to see it snowing, yet construction is going on. And I do understand a lot of this. There was a lot of assembly that was done in a manufactured walls and so on, correct? And so it's just wonderful. So take a drive, go and take a look, and you can see the footprint of the building as it's now going up. We come to board reports, library board. Councillor Lougheed, anything to?
No, nothing to report. Thank you.
C'est bon. Then we move then to police services board. I simply wanted to mention actually that there's a survey that's going on in our community. The OPP Northeast region of the Ontario Provincial Police, they're doing a survey. They're looking for input on community satisfaction. And basically it's not, they're using a variety of different methods, a mixed method for surveying the community. And so some citizens are receiving a letter and they're being given a secure access code to go online and complete a survey. And so if you hear from any citizens that tell you, I've received this letter, and you can assure them that this is a very legitimate process and they're encouraged to provide feedback as requested. And so you may also get a telephone call. They're also conducting telephone calls. And so I simply wanted to mention that because I don't think we had raised that in our previous communications.
Yeah, it's just a good one, Mary, because there is a lot of scams going on there. So I've had some people ask me if this is actually legit, and I said yes. And I received mine and did mine and told some people it doesn't take very long. It's probably like less than 10 minutes.
Oh, but that's good to know.
So it's an actual survey from the Ontario Provincial Police, and it's a good survey. I thought that they asked a lot of good questions. And so just to make sure and let everybody know it's not a scam, it's not anything else there. So the password is the privacy number, so it's good for yourself, and that's it. So it's
But thank you for adding those comments. That's good to know. And I saw Councillor Champagne as well. You had your hand up. Wait.
Yeah, it was nice. Well, thank you, Mayor. It was nice to see that. I know the holidays are over, but at 9:30 this morning at where the trail crosses on Nashville Road by East Ferrisado, the ride program was set up.
Oh my gosh.
So,
a ride program.
So
Wow.
people that think that it's gone, it's still around.
Oh,
yeah. So they were mostly it was for the snowmobiles.
the snowmobiles. Okay.
Yeah, I got stopped though. Two of us did. So I guess he was bored.
Oh, very good. Very good. It's very important to see them present in our community. So that's good to know as well. So thank you very much for those comments. With that said, we'll move to departmental reports. We have a few. The first one being the report that we had discussed at our last meeting. And we want to make sure that everyone had a chance to read it. And basically, as was mentioned, this is simply a report that will go to staff and help to provide ideas and some consideration. So it's nothing set in stone. But on that note, I turn it over to Monsieur Trottier, Mr. Curtin.
Thanks, Mayor Rochford. Oh, go ahead, Greg.
Oh, sorry, Jason.
it's
Thanks,
okay.
Mayor Rochford. So yes, as you mentioned, this report was introduced at our January 25th council meeting. And I hope everyone's had a chance to look over some parts of it, specifically tables 2 through 10 in the report. So I wanted to touch on some of them briefly and kind of go over the ones that I thought maybe are some of the easier ones to implement, and some of the ones that are more relevant to our, I guess, budget considerations for 2022. So I'll just jump right into it. So of the 8 tables, table through 210 that I pulled out, I think all of them except for table 3 and 4 probably have some immediate relevance and relatively easily implementation measures that we can take a look at. So what I'm hoping to do today is just touch on some of the key points in each section, and then if there's any feedback from council that we could take from this report, then I can pass that along to the department managers with a copy of the report. And then that way we kind of know where to focus our efforts when we're doing budgets before bringing you a draft budget. So starting with table 2, one of the things that's come up a couple times is just obviously the amount of development that the community is experiencing. So there's been some talk about whether or not we can do a broader survey for water availability in the community. So this wouldn't necessarily be a cheap implementation, but it's something we can explore as far as pricing out what it would cost to do a broad review of all the well records in the community. Maybe we could section off parts of the community and identify like where there may be, concerns as far as water availability and where we have a lot to work with. So that's in line with the clean water section of the preserving, or I forget the name of the study now, the preserving and protecting our environment for future generations report. Table 3 and 4, they do have some relevance, but I think for the purposes of this discussion, I'm going to skip past them to ones that I think are maybe a little more direct in their implementation. Going to table 5. So I think there's some opportunity to consider some of the energy usage in our own facilities. For example, today I was at the arena discussing our contract for servicing for our ice plant. I was meeting with the team that does the work for that, and they mentioned that there's a grant available through one of the organizations that run through Hydro, those type of organizations that do things like grants for commercial facilities for energy audits and things like that. So I'm gonna explore that and see if that's something we may be eligible to apply for. So those are the types of things that would be easy to implement from using energy and resources wisely perspective. Going on to table 6. So government leadership. I think it's worthwhile looking at what we may be able to do to act as a leader in the community as far as green initiatives go. So something like an electric vehicle charging station. We aren't currently aware of what that entails as far as running infrastructure or the cost to install one. But there's certainly options where other organizations or entities will partner to install and cover parts of the cost, and then they'll have their own kind of payment mechanisms, and it's something that just has like a presence. So just by having that presence at somewhere like our recreation hub, it would potentially be something that kind of leads the way as far as green infrastructure goes. Table 7, reducing litter and waste. I thought it was interesting to talk about potentially doing a green bin program. I do know that a lot of households in the community have their own composting setups, being rural properties with large land, like tracts in some case. But it would be something that you don't often see in smaller communities or in our region. And if we could make something like that work, it would kind of position us as a leader in that type of space within the Nipissing region. Table 8. This one is really one of the easiest ones to implement, I think. So I really think we should at least take a look at it as far as doing a review of all our existing facilities. So it does, it coincides almost perfectly with the Parks Master Plan, which is a strategic plan item that we'll be looking at this year as well. So it would basically entail us taking stock of all of our existing parks and facilities and reviewing it from an availability of recycling and waste collection and other services like that. And then if we're lacking in any areas, then we can install those facilities. And it would just be a simple way to help reduce litter and waste in our facilities and in our parks. And then kind of following up on that, we should definitely continue to support and promote our municipal cleanup day, which has been a huge success in past years. And that's a relatively low budget item that engages the community and really just takes a lot of waste out of the community, out of the ditches, out of the parks, out of the lakes. And then finally, table 10. This one's related to promoting parks and increased recreational opportunities. So this one I'm excited about because it's directly related to my new role that I've just taken on. So I'd really like to investigate what new partnerships we could make or rekindle old partnerships with other organizations we've worked with in the past So this one is all about just raising awareness and use of our facilities. Yeah, we'll look all through our old connections, and I really want to try to get as many people out using our facilities and as much structured programming as we can possibly provide for the residents. So those are the ones I think that there would be some of the low-hanging fruit that we could tackle in this budget year. But I was hoping for some input from council on which items, if any, stand out and any direction in that regard.
Council?
Looks good, Greg.
Uh,
So,
Okay. Okay, well, I'll go with how I saw the comments. Okay, first three hands. Deputy Mayor Trahan, I saw Councillor Champagne, Councillor Kelly. That's how it came to me visually. So hopefully that's all right with everyone. Deputy Mayor Trahan, please proceed.
sorry, Rick. I think you had your hand up first. No, it's a great report, Greg, and we'll see why not. You would not. What I really like is we're thinking outside the box and trying to make some partnerships with other groups and organizations and try and get that wheel to spin and there's other options out there that we might be missing, or even some other grants or something that we can move forward on. I think it's great, and why wouldn't you provide this report to your managers also? So no, it's a good moving forward report. Thanks.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Trahan. Councillor Champagne?
Well, thank you. Just echoing what Steve was saying, basically, thanks, Greg, for the report. It's great. Parks and Rec, they do a great job there too, but there's always room for improvement all over. It doesn't matter what we do in our municipality. But at the end of McPherson Drive, especially, needs more work to be done. I think it's more education down there than anything else, because we need more signage. A lot of people do complain about people are just leaving their dogs running around and not picking up after them and things like that. And there's a lot of people from the island or wherever they boat, they launch, they just kind of leave the garbage there. But like I say, our Parks and Rec people they've been doing a great job cleaning it up. But I think we got to get more signage out there just to get people aware that, or get cameras set up if we have to. It's too bad to get a little park there at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Champagne. Councillor Kelly?
Yeah, thank you. I can just think of two areas that are underutilized in the summertime, and that's probably the the trails behind the Corbeil Hall, which are run by the Mattawa Conservation Authority, because a lot of people don't know they're there, and they're really nice. The other one is the Wassy Ski Club, which is well utilized in the winter, but ridiculously underutilized in the summer.
Yeah.
And those trails are open for hiking. Like the ski club they're under a lease agreement with the Crown for the use in the wintertime. But in the summertime, those hiking trails are not utilized, and they're extensive. They go, I think they're 1.5 kilometers up to, I'm not sure what the top kilometer is, but it's extensive. And there's beautiful property back there.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's advertised right. And Rick is right. We need more signage. So I'm for any of that.
Bon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good comments. Wait, c'est bon. Councillor Lougheed, yes, please.
Yeah, I think this is great. I love seeing these things written down because it feels like there's something to look forward to. And I just really appreciate it, Greg. So thanks for doing this. It's good. I'm hoping, I don't know how to expand on this, but I'm hoping maybe we can continue to learn how to not only like manage the water and lake system, but how if there's any tools in the toolbox on how to improve it, right? On how to continue to improve it. And I just know that there are some options out there. I do think they might be bigger options in terms of like cleaning systems for the lake. But that's where my head is going to, maybe something further down the road. But yeah, I think the municipal waste project idea would also be something that I think the community would get behind. Like that's kind of exciting if we can manage, bears. But other than that, thank you very much for the work.
All right. Well, good comment, Councillor Lougheed. And I do want to mention, I had the pleasure recently of sitting down with Jean-Luc Labonté. As we know, he's owned R&D Recycling, and he just sold it. But he was reminding me that East Ferris was the first one, as we know, but sometimes I think we forget it, just that we were leading edge when we started with the Blue Box program. So I think it is good to suggest maybe the Green Box program and these initiatives, as I mean, they are steps, and they're so I think it's excellent. So I guess on that note, Mr. Curtin, you have support from council to pass these on to the managers to be examined during the budget process. So I believe we will have a resolution. Madam Clerk, correct?
We do. I require a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Champagne and seconded by Councillor Kelly. The Council for the Municipality of East Ferris accepts the recommendation from the Manager of Planning and Economic Development contained in report number Plan 2022-01 and accepts the report for information purposes and approves forwarding the report to department managers for further consideration during the 2022 budget process. And you'll notice the motion does say the Manager of Planning Economic Development, because that was the position at the time the report was drafted and presented to council.
Yes, Madam Clerk. Any further comments or questions before we vote? All in favor? C'est bon, carried. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Curtin. And on that note, we move forward to the next report, which is a verbal one. And so I turn it again over to Mr. Trottier. Mr. Curtin.
So, just before Greg starts, there's one item in our strat plan, which was basically public-facing GIS. So that's what Greg's going to demonstrate tonight. He has been working with CGIS, who manages basically our mapping system and that. So I believe, Greg, I would have to give you host, right, to be able to share your screen. So I will do that. And you are good to proceed, Greg.
Okay, thanks, Jason. So as Jason explained, this item was one of the 2022 items for our strategic plan. So we wanted to look into providing a public-facing GIS. So basically what that means is that we would provide an interactive map that community members could go on and look up things like their zoning. They could look at air photos. They could look at official plan designation. They could look at environmental areas that are regulated by the Conservation Authority and other kind of similar features to that. So this was something that we were able to integrate with our existing services with CGIS. So there was no cost to doing it. We've basically built the platform in draft form at this time. The reason it made sense to launch it now is because we just recently passed our new zoning bylaw. So we'll launch this in conjunction with the new zoning that took effect when we passed the zoning bylaw. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. I basically want to give council a quick overview tonight, just so you could see how it looks, give any comments and suggestions if you have any, just because we're in the final stages of kind of wrapping the project up. One thing I just want to mention is that our old zoning bylaw zoning layer is still on this. So if you notice anything that may be off, it's because we're still working on the update with CGIS. But this is more just to give you a visual representation of what to expect for the public when they log on to our platform. So I'll go ahead and share my screen now. Okay, so can everyone see this?
Yes.
Okay, so I used the Astorville area as an example, just to give a quick tour. Oh, I need to move, there we go. So you can see it basically shows the municipal border. It kind of grays out the areas that aren't part of our community. And this is a very zoomed out view, but you can see over here some of the layers that we have. So just to do a test run, I will zoom in to the Astorville area. So we'll take a look here. So you can see once you zoom in, it has a detailed lot fabric of all the lots that are in the area. And so you can, oops, that's not the one. So you can move around. You need to use the hand. I double click the center mouse. I'm used to using Google Maps and different programs, but you can move around so you can see the lot fabric in all of the different areas. And if you want to check the zoning for a property, you just come over here to the layers tab. You can put this on. So what we decided to implement was a color coded zoning. So residential zoning is in yellow, commercial zoning is in red, industrial zoning is in blue, parks and open space zoning is in green, and then everything that's not colored is a rural zoning. So these zoning colors are pretty standard in the province. I mean, even wider than that, it's kind of a general color scheme that goes with land use designations. But you can see, the special zoning for this here, a standard RH zone there, C1 zones here. So it gives detailed information about all of the properties in the community. If you wanted to, you could take that off. You can check out, if you want to know, oh, is my property subject to site plan control? You can put on the layer here and you can see, okay, everything around the lake. So I fall within the potential area where site plan may be required. Similarly to that, you can know whether you need to inquire with the North Bay Mattawa Conservation Authority. So stream run through here, lake here. So this would represent the approximate regulated area. So all of these types of things are really useful for residents or realtors or builders when they're doing their due diligence for projects, because they know which groups that they need to coordinate with before basically submitting an application for a certain type of project. If you want to get in even more depth, you can scroll down here. You can see all of our official plan schedules. So you can put on the official plan land use schedule, and then you would see everything in red is the village designation. So because we're in Astorville right now, we can see that this is the outline of the village area as per our official plan. The green is the waterfront designation, which corresponds with the lakefront, obviously. If we take that off, we can get a general idea of landscape by contour mapping. It's not at the same interval as the mapping we have on our internal one, but that's by design as to not bog down this web-based application. The other thing we can do is we can put on aerial imagery. So not all GIS systems offer this on a public-facing application, but I thought we have the data. Why not make it available? It's similar to Google Maps, but a little more detailed in some cases, and we do pay for this data every so often in coordination with other municipalities. So I thought that it should be available. So yeah, I mean that's kind of a general overview of everything, but it's kind of a cool tool. It's something that isn't in use right now, or not able to be accessed right now by any East Ferris resident. But with the launching the new bylaw, residents will be able to come on and check out all their own zoning, all of the regulations that apply to their property, and it'll just let them find out a lot more information about their property without having to contact the municipal office. So I'd be happy to answer any questions about the tool or any suggestions that the council has to build into our final version when we launch it.
I can't see the okay. Yes, sorry, Deputy Mayor Trahan, yes.
When were you thinking of going live with it, Greg?
We're hoping to go live with it within a week or two. I've sent the last round of final updates to CGIS, our GIS provider. So really, once they make those changes, we can go live anytime. It actually is technically live right now. Anyone with the link could view it, but we just haven't put the link out publicly yet.
Great, thanks.
Other comments or questions? I was just going to mention it would make a great article for the April newsletter. So it is good.
Yes.
But carry on. Well done. And so.
Perfect.
C'est bon. Thank you so much. And thank you as well for delivering on the strategic plan, Mr. Tretier. I know, and Mr. Curtin, I mean, you're certainly working at doing that, and it's well noted. So thank you. So it'll be
Thank
well
you.
appreciated by our citizens. On that note, that brings us to report numbers by Madame Clerk, report number C, Madame Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Now that it's an election year, the best part of the job is working the elections. Yay! So it's a simple report to council. It's just outlining a few regulations that we do prepare. So it's the 2020 municipal election procedures is an election information. It's in a condensed format with sections of the Municipal Act. They are for information purposes only, as having council's input on the procedures, it could perceive to as interference by the incumbents. So as this is an election year, this report is to provide council with an update on the clerk's progress in preparing for the election. These procedures have been drafted by the clerk's office under the authority of the Municipal Elections Act. So as far as the recommendations to council, it's only for council to receive the 2022 municipal election procedures as information purposes only. The document will be provided on the municipal website, and it will also be available to candidates that wish to run in the municipal election through a package. That's my report.
Well, Madam Clerk, I do know you have a motion to put forward to accept your report. And
do.
so would you like to put that forward, and we'll see if there's any questions?
Thank you. I require a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Trahan and seconded by Councillor Champagne. The Council for the Municipality of East Ferris accepts the recommendation from the clerk contained in report number clerk 2022-01, municipal election procedures for information purposes only, and that the 2022 municipal election procedures be made available on the municipal website and all candidates through the election package.
Any final questions or comments before we vote? All in favor? C'est bon. Thank you so much. And thank you, Madam Clerk. It is recognized that this adds to your work. So thank you for that. Monsieur Trottier.
If I may, Mayor Rochford, I just wanted to let you know, council know, but also the residents, that we do have a new section on the website for the 2022 municipal elections. So it is a, what do you call it? A quick link right on the front.
Yeah.
So within there, that's where the information is going to be posted. That's election related. But I'm not sure if Monica wants to speak to this, but there is also a workshop that is going to be occurring. I believe it's in April, Monica. Correct me if I'm wrong. Go ahead.
The workshop it's being led, I believe, by the Municipality of East Ferris, Callender, the City of North Bay, and I believe Chisholm. And being Fred Dean, he's coming to North Bay to do a seminar to candidates that want to run for council. The seminar is free. The Municipality of East Ferris can only accept 35 registrations for in-person only. And if somebody wishes to register and do it virtually, then there's no limits to the registrations. So that is posted on our website under our election tab. We also have under the election tab, the voterlookup.ca. So I would encourage residents of the municipality to have a look to make sure they are on the voters list. So that can be amended anytime. That will be open, I would say, probably until August 31st, the voterlookup.ca. And that's it. So as we only have a limit of 35 in-body people at the West Ferris Arena in North Bay, but if you do wish to register virtually, there is no limits. And it's got to be registered through the clerk's office.
And so the date is April 6th.
Correct.
The date is April 6th at the City of North Bay at the West Ferris Arena. I forget the name of the arena, but it's the West Ferris Arena, and it's from 6 to 8 p.m., I believe.
Yeah, so the Sam Jacks complex,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
which is the West Ferris Arena.
But thank you for that report and those comments. So on that note, we will move forward. We come to no notice of motions. We come to item 12, bylaws, and that's our bylaw with respect to regulating animals in the municipality of East Ferris. and I turn it over again. Here, Mr. Trottier, Mr. Curtin, and again, here, Deputy Mayor Trahan, if you'd like to comment. If you'd like to provide an opening comment, please do so, Deputy Mayor Trahan.
Thanks, Mayor. I just want to say this is great. I believe this is really good work from Greg, and we had some really good input from the Economic Development Committee that put forward. And on the committee, we had some people that had firsthand knowledge, so which was really good. And they were able to answer a lot of questions that we didn't have answers to, or they were able to guide us to those places to get those answers. So really good work here on Greg. Again, Greg, you're going to get Employee of the Month award, I believe. So I'll let Greg take it over, and I really hope that the rest of the council really endorses this. I think it's a good bylaw. Go ahead, Greg.
All right. Thanks,
Mayor?
Sorry, Madam Clerk.
Discussing on the bylaw, if there's any changes or discussion, we should read the first and second reading to put it on the floor to be discussed.
Okay, yes, proceed. Yeah, so this evening is the first and second, and thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Sorry, Mr. Curtin, my mistake.
I require a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Lougheed and seconded by Deputy Mayor Trahan. The bylaw number 2022-10 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2014-19, a bylaw to regulate animals in the municipality of East Ferris, be read a first and second time this 8th day of February 2022. Okay.
So on that note, do you want to read the proposed, or Madam Clerk, do you want to read it now? I think she's on mute. You're on mute? I don't know how that happened.
I don't have the bylaw in front of me, but it was the changes that were recommended from the Economic Development Committee.
Wait.
Greg, do you have the changes with you?
Yes, I was going to go over each of the changes and the rationale and the recommendations from the Economic Development Committee, but did you want to read the full thing, Monica?
I can. I just have to pull it off of my system. I'll have to minimize my system.
Or do we need to, I guess, is
I don't
okay.
think we need to. The bylaw is on the website along attached with the agenda, so the public can see it that way. Council has received it.
Yes. Okay.
I can share my screen as well.
I think it's important to have it before us. Yes.
okay. I just made you the host again, Jason.
Thank you.
So you should be able to share now.
Okay. Everyone should be able to see it.
Wait, thank you so much. So Mr. Curtin.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Rushford. So this item is following up on a recommendation from the Economic Development Committee, which is following up on another item in our strategic plan. So one of our strategic plan items indicated that we should look at different bylaws and policies that we have in the municipality and see if any of them could be modified to promote a more business-friendly environment. So one of the ones that we looked at was the animal control bylaw, and specifically within the animal control bylaw, we looked at how fowl could be treated. So previously, I guess currently, chickens and other fowl are basically treated in a way that you can have up to 10, and it's for public, or not public, but personal consumption only. So the Economic Development Committee, when looking at this, wanted to take a different approach. So their recommendation to council was that council expand the permissions for keepings of chicken. So their thought was, if we're going to allow some basic commercial activities such as selling of eggs or selling of meat, then we should also increase the number of fowl permitted per lot, which makes sense because if you're only using them personally, you would have a much lower limit, which is what we currently have. But if we're going to promote things like farm stands or the selling of animal products or eggs, meat, then we should allow people to have some more. That being said, the idea is to try to strike a balance, basically. So these are still residential properties, and this still is an accessory use to a residential property. So the idea was, let's try to find a reasonable balance between the number of chickens you can keep and the size of your property. So seeing what's on the screen right here, in section 1, this table is entirely new, and what it's based on is that most people, when they buy chickens, they buy them by the dozen. So that's why you can see that the number of acres and the number of fowl permitted corresponds to multiples of 12. So the idea from the Economic Development Committee was that we set it up this way just so it coincides with the way most people will end up purchasing the birds that they use. The reason why we have no limit on 5+ is because when you get into 5+ acres, you get into farm designations and what we allow for agricultural uses as well. So that kind of lines up with what's permitted for farm uses. One of the things I guess I should touch on is that the OMAFRA regulations for chickens are the maximums are far beyond what we proposed here. So as a general rule in the OMAFRA guidelines, they permit 300 birds for an individual person, or not permit because they don't specifically regulate it, but their guidelines for urban chicken farming say 300 for meat birds and 100 for egg-laying birds. So this is lower than that, but we thought that was appropriate because the idea was to, like I said, strike the balance between maintaining that residential character while still allowing some increased activity. Another thing that is a major point that I think some discussion will be around is roosters. So in section 1 at the top of the screen here, where the definition of fowl should be amended to not include a rooster. So our current bylaw doesn't classify a rooster as a chicken that can be kept at all. And the idea there is that roosters are noisy sometimes. So we need to consider that when we're writing these policies. That being said, some of the good input that Deputy Mayor Trahan referred to from our Economic Development Committee, from people that have raised chickens and have been involved in this process, was that limitation on roosters doesn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense, depending on what the birds are being used for. So roosters don't start to crow and make noise until they reach a certain age, and in almost all cases, that doesn't happen until after they pass an age that you would normally harvest the chicken for the meat. So the idea here was in section 4, we would allow roosters to be permitted because you would often use them for meat birds. However, we define it here as once the rooster is matured to the point of being vocal, then we say that they'll be required to be kept at a greater setback from property lines. We considered whether or not, and also 5 acres in size, but we considered whether it would be necessary to limit the number altogether. But the reason why the Economic Development Committee didn't think that was particularly necessary is because if you're keeping a rooster longer, chances are you're keeping it as a mating bird, and you're raising your own hens, and you're probably using it for something related to egg production. And normally in that situation, you don't have multiple roosters just because of the nature of the way they compete with each other. They'll often attack each other, and it's just not feasible to have multiple roosters in the same location for that purpose. So that's the reason why we kind of left that open and didn't think it was necessarily, required to limit the number, because you'll have so few in that case anyways. They may make some noise though. So, we had to kind of consider, will it be a problem in communities? And then we started thinking, okay, our animal control bylaw has fines that we can administer for things like that. And we do have dogs that make as much or more noise, and there's processes by which we have to deal with that. So yes, there could be some noise, but in trying to strike the balance between allowing some local economic activity, we kind of settled on this. So those are really the two like very major changes and the ones that really deviate from our current bylaw. We added a couple other small things like in section 2, just off the screen, the chicken enclosures need to have a setback of 10 meters from property lines. And then 5, 6, 7, 8, these are all carried over from our existing bylaw. These are all things that just make sense, ensuring that the enclosures are properly constructed, that they're kept sanitary, safe, the dead animals are removed right away. If we could just scroll down a little bit, please, Jason. Going on to these ones, and the rest of these are all things that we carried over as well. So 9, 10, 11, and 12. These are all things that also exist in our current bylaw. The only other thing I'll touch on briefly is minimum distance separation calculations. So generally, MDS calculations don't really apply to the keeping of fowl. There are some exceptions. It depends whether other animals are kept, and it also depends on a series of calculations about nutrient units, they're called. So OMAFRA defines certain things as a percentage of a nutrient unit, and then if you add all those things together and get to a certain threshold of nutrient units, then you require additional regulations. The one thing I can say is that in the bylaw we've proposed, there's just no possible way that it could ever reach the threshold for those level of nutrient units unless other animals are present. So with the intention of this bylaw to apply predominantly to accessory uses residential, I think that MDS calculations are something that wouldn't really ever come into play, and those would basically just apply to commercial agricultural operations.
Thank you, Mr. Curtin. Questions or comments of Mr. Curtin? Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor. So are we talking fowl or are we talking chickens?
We're talking both. So fowl is defined as other type of birds. So in our bylaw, it defines it as ducks.
So we could have on 4 acres, we could have 72 turkeys, we could have 72 ostriches, or we could have 72 geese. Is that correct?
Not ostriches, I don't believe, but there are other birds in the definition. So that's okay. That's something that we should maybe clean up for the third reading.
I think if we're gonna talk chickens, we should talk chicken. You know, I really do, seriously, by definition, because fowls is very broad. Now, I know on the planning board, and I haven't been on that long, but we've had a lot of pushback against regular development in certain areas of the municipality. And now we're going to have quite frankly, this is promoting hobby farms for anybody with an acre of land. And 36 chickens, that's substantial. 2 acres, 48 chickens, 3 acres, 60 chickens, and 4 acres, 72 chickens. These are basically hobby farms. I've got a couple of concerns. One, obviously, we've got to clean up the term fowl is not, doesn't represent what we're trying to promote here, I don't believe. If it's chickens, it's chickens. The other thing is, you go to the store, you pick up a chicken, or your eggs, that somewhere along the line, their FDA or a government agency has approved the sale of the chicken or the eggs. Now, we all know that there's the odd farm you go by, eggs for sale, just drop into the driveway. But when you start having the carcass itself for sale, who's approving the sale of it, and who's, quite frankly, who's going to look at what's going on with the chicken before it hits for sale? The other thing that really does concern me too is there's a lot of rules and regs from number 6 down, actually number 5 down, but who's going to enforce all these rules? Because I mean, some people have no interest in having chickens on the property, but if they do, you've got a lot of rules and regs in place. And I'm just wondering who's going to enforce it on a regular basis. So anyway, these are my questions. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much. They're good comments. So thank you, Councillor Kelly, do you want to respond now, Mr. Curtin, or would you like to go on to a further question and then maybe provide a comment afterwards?
I was just going to provide a couple quick comments just for Councillor Kelly, just while I have it written down here. So the first thing I wanted to touch on was your question about selling chicken meat. So under OMAFRA's regulations, you're not allowed to sell meat unless it's been slaughtered at a licensed abattoir. So people can't kill a chicken themselves and then sell it. It has to be brought to a licensed facility that processes the meat. So that's where the check and balance is with regard to that. And then the bylaw enforcement element. The idea would be to provide this bylaw to Brad Stewart, our new bylaw enforcement officer, and then we should have the capacity to get more on top of these type of things.
So I will go on to Councillor Champagne and come back then to Councillor Kelly, because I think you're trying to get in another question there. Councillor
Sure.
Champagne?
You're
Councillor
muted,
Champagne,
Rick.
you're on.
I was talking about Terry not doing it, and I'm doing it. Sorry about that. The way it's written, I wouldn't be able to support it the way it's written I'll give you a couple of reasons. I know you've done a lot of great work on it, and I'm sure we can get something done. When you look at an acre of property and you're allowed to have 36 chickens on this property, most people have chickens on the property to get eggs. You have 4 chickens on your property, that gives you 2 dozen eggs at the end of the week. Most chickens for the first year, they have an egg every day. 36 chickens, that's a lot of eggs. And that's a lot of dirt getting scattered around. I believe that if you're looking at numbers that big, you should be looking at a permit. Number 2, I think what we should be doing is putting it out to the residents to let them know what we're doing here, because a lot of the people weren't happy the last time, because that's why we changed the rules to 8 or 10. There's some places they can probably have 5 or 6 acres, they could probably do this. But I think if we don't know about it, right now we're just opening up a can of worms. I think you get a subdivision, we don't have 1.5 acre lots, and you decide you're gonna have 36 chickens on the property. I don't think the neighbors will be happy about it, even if they're inside. Well, it's gonna smell at one point or another, and which way the wind blows. And I think the bylaw enforcement officer is gonna be really busy on this. So you have to, that's a lot. I think you gotta loosen the numbers. You gotta get down a little bit here, because what's gonna happen is you're gonna have one neighbor mad about doing one thing, then another one, then another one. And I think this has to go to a permit fee, or take a look at permits so we know where these places are. And again, just saying that, I think we should get this out to the public. I know we've got 2 more weeks to the next meeting. I think we should put it up on the website saying this is what's going on. Any comments, I think it should come from the public. Because if we do pass this without the public knowing about it, I think we're going to get crucified. That's just my opinion.
Well, thank you, Councillor Champagne. Councillor Kelly, there's no one else that has their hands up. Would you like to proceed with your next?
Thank you.
question?
Greg, I just want something definitive. Are you going to change it to chickens rather than fowl?
Just a second, pardon me. So, Mr. Trottier, yes?
Our bylaw stipulates right now that a fowl is a chicken, geese, I believe turkey and pigeons. And we will be including roosters to it. So just for council's info, that's what the current bylaw
Okay.
has.
So then by what I'm saying is, and this is in furtherance to what Councillor Champagne said, there's one heck of a difference between 36 chickens and 36 turkeys or 36 geese. Believe me, this is a lot of birds in a very small area for that many birds. And the bigger the bird, the more area you need. According to the bylaw, 36 chickens they're being treated the same as 36 turkeys or geese. Makes no sense. So I think it's got to be revised. That's just my opinion. And I agree with Rick, 36 chickens on 1 acre of land is a lot of chickens. And I know from the planning board, the pushback we're getting, and you know, Greg, yourself, because you're involved all the time, the pushback we're getting on just developing lots and they're 2 and 3 acres in size. Just imagine saying, oh yeah, by the way, the 2 acre lot's going in and they've now got 48 turkeys on that lot. It's not going to fly. We're going to have a rebellion on our hands. This is very serious. So I'm all for educating the public, and I'd like to have the public's input. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Questions?
I'd like to hear what the deputy mayor, like you spend a lot of time on this. I would love for you to fill in some blanks too, if you're willing. Because I think there was some public consultation, but maybe clearly not enough. What do you think?
Deputy Mayor Trahan?
Some of the public comments were really good. I didn't see too many negatory comments with regards to it. A couple of councillors have made their comments on it, and we'll, like I said, it's here we can go back and take a look at it, and there's nothing wrong with making some amendments. But I haven't received any derogatory or any other bad comments from the public, and as well as it was on social media. So.
Well, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Lougheed, was that anything else to add? No, good. Wait, Councillor Champagne?
Just in reference what Deputy Mayor just said, I think most people, Steve, don't realize that how big a 1 acre lot is. And I think if you're looking at 4 or 5 acres, you got 36 chickens on, you won't even notice it. But a 1 acre lot, I think you're opening yourself up, or we're opening ourselves up to either a lawsuit or some really mad neighbors, because the smell that will come out of there on a 1 acre lot, depending which way the wind blows, and there's another, especially in your subdivision, allowing this to happen, and especially with the roosters. At the end of the day, you're just asking for problems. And that's why I was going back to a permit. You make certain areas of the municipality, it's not an issue. So if they come in and get a permit, and they want to get 36 on an acre and a half lot, but there's nobody else around, it's not a problem. But when your neighbors are really close, that could be a real problem, especially if you don't like your neighbor and you say, I'll fix you, I'll put 36 chickens on my property. Well, then what do you do?
Okay, well, it's noted, and we'll take a look at it. Thanks.
If I may, I'd just like to add, personally, I'm very delighted to see this policy moving forward. But I think this discussion is very good. And I mean, we may not end up precisely as it is here, but we're making some progress, and we may end up with something slightly different. But for just a few comments, personally, you will recall that in the last council, I was certainly an advocate for changes to our policy, because I had seen that there was some hobby farmers engaging in, and I see it more, and I've visited 3 or 4 in our community, and large ones that have, they basically are doing poultry hatchery, I think is almost what it is. And so their birds. So for example, I mean, it was very public, the Giroux, right? Oscar and Barbara Giroux, it was a public file before council that it was discussed. And so they had a number of birds beyond, I suspect these numbers here are within these numbers. And they were all inside of a building. And so basically, I encourage everyone to go and meet. I don't know if you know of anyone that has these various operations in our community, and maybe try and take an opportunity to go and visit them and see what the issues are. But certainly, I think it's good. I compliment the Economic Development Committee for tackling it and for pushing it forward, and now for getting feedback. And now we're going to go to the public. I think these are very good comments, very wise comments. The whole concept of permitting may be interesting, something to consider. I don't know how that works, but we've given, I think now, our staff and the Economic Development Committee some food for thought and for further consideration to see how they might, structure this policy so that it meets some of the new tendencies that are out there. And I mean, so certainly we know the 100-mile diet, all these concepts are out there, and we're trying to be in line with that, but certainly understand that can bring problems, and we need to be thinking about those problems as well. But on the other side, I encourage others that have not been to visit some of these poultry farms, and I do believe Deputy Mayor has. I believe Councillor Lougheed has firsthand experience, and so I encourage us all to go and take a close look. And pardon me, Councillor Champagne, I know I should not have said any of that, because you're going to say I used to have some chickens myself.
No, I'm not going to say that. All I'm saying, I'm not against home business. All I'm saying is the way it's written, it could open up a can of worms that we won't be able to come out of it. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, and I think your points were well made. What is the definition? Do we want 36 ostriches running around? Those are good comments. Councillor Kelly.
Just for clarification, ostriches are not fowl,
Okay,
but ducks are.
quack, quack.
So we're looking at, let's call a turkey, right? I mean, we got turkey, geese, and ducks that are possibilities. Big difference. So we should define what fowl is actually talking about when we're talking, especially these numbers.
Right.
And I'm fully for small hobby farms and so forth. We have a few in the area. I mean, and I think it's great if you can grow your own food,
Mhm.
but I think we have to be very careful where we tread on this one.
I was surprised, like I was mentioning it to Mr. Trestier, that back like 4 years ago in 2017, when we looked at this, I had read the OMAFRA guidelines, and poultry hatcheries, to me, were subject to MDS measurements and regulations. But in today's OMAFRA regulations, they're not. There's no obligation to meet any minimum separation requirements. And so I thought, oh, there's been some changes, and I know there's not necessarily changes with the actual calculation for an MD of what is the minimum separation, but I saw changes in what's allowed and not allowed. So I was surprised by that. And so again, I think for all of us to read what's been changed and what's out there is also good. But I think this is an excellent discussion, and we need to make sure it's right, because it can, backfire on us. And so I think that's how it's all our comments are being interpreted. Deputy Mayor, can I have a final word? Is this all right? It's not too discouraging? Okay to.
Oh, no, this is what we do. That we get feedback and open up the lines of communication. This is nothing wrong with this at all.
And I noted that when following our last council meeting, there were public comments. So some people made comments. So there's obviously an interest out there. So I think it's a good strategy that's been encouraged tonight. So on that note, we do have the first and second reading that's before us. Are we comfortable with reading that, allowing that to go forward? That's to allow further work. It will bring further. It will to answer some of their questions. And I mean, it's not tying us up. It's just going to mean that we're allowed to move forward to the next step. Oui, Councillor Champagne?
Just have a question. So we read the first and second motion. We have to vote on it on the next meeting, don't we?
Does it have to be immediately the next meeting, Madam Clerk? No, we can have, sorry.
You don't have to bring it back to the next meeting. Your first and second reading of the bylaw is to put it on the floor and do all of your discussion and do all your due diligence with it. And then at the third reading, when it's passed, then it's final. So it could go like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks before. It's just this number has been assigned to this bylaw.
It would not prevent either Mr. Curtin from giving us an update at the next council meeting without necessarily, pardon me, oui, Mr. Curtin.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Rushford. If I may, I was just looking at the timelines, and maybe I could suggest a series of like public consultation events to council and see if this makes sense to you. So if I were to prepare a public consultation document and get something out with either a survey or a comment sheet by this Friday, we could leave public consultation open for 2 weeks until February 25th. And then that would give me the following week to prepare a report to compile the public consultation to council. And then that could go before council on the March 8th meeting, which I think works nicely. We missed one meeting, and I think 2 weeks of public consultation may be sufficient.
I agree with that. The only thing I would add to that, Greg, is if you can take a look at permits over a certain amount, then we have a control on it. That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Is everyone in agreement with that timeline? Let's just a show of hands just to see if that was all right as suggested. Wait, okay, good. All right, so we will then put forward the first and second reading. And I think we've read it already. We saw it on the screen. So that was our reading of it. And then we will conduct public consultation, and we will have updates, and it will come back to us as for third reading. It may mean a lot of changes though, but I suspect that Mr. Curtin, may I ask, would you prefer, is that to make sure, are you okay with that approach? Maybe making changes to the yes?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, we brought this forward from the lens of the Economic Development Committee, looking to open regulations because their mandate is to look at business-friendly policies. But we're certainly open to implementing. Like council has to consider other options as well. So we knew there'd be recommended changes, and we're happy to implement whatever changes are required for the third reading.
All in favor? C'est bon, thank you, carried. Thank you so much. Okay, so now we move forward to correspondence. Deputy Mayor Tran.
Thanks, Mayor, I'm good.
Okay, thank you so much. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor Rochford. I've just got a couple of comments and generalized comments about DSAB. The budgets are in. It's an ongoing. It's true across Northern Ontario and Southern Ontario. Budgets are a nightmare with between the opioid crisis and the Omicron and the COVID crisis and the homelessness situation. I see no financial relief on the horizon, quite frankly. You know, I know that the hotel bill in North Bay for homeless over the last year was very expensive and extensive, and they're trying to build permanent shelters in place. And then it's a matter of people accessing them or be willing to access them and making them a safe haven for protection. So it's across our country in general. And it doesn't matter where you go. And I've talked to people in Echo Bay and Sault Ste. Marie, up Cochrane Way in Timmins, and it's the same story, but the costs are exponential. They're just off the board. As our CAO knows, I think you've got the numbers, Jason, have you not?
For the
DSAB?
budget?
Yes.
Correct. It's
Yeah,
on the
and,
agenda.
It's not going away anytime soon, that's for sure. So I just wanted to just point out the fact that it's worth reviewing, taking a look at, but the numbers in some areas will astound you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Councillor Lougheed.
None on my end, just a follow up on Councillor Kelly's comment on, you know, as the numbers roll in and we see kind of how they're laid out, I'm in favor of, you know, pushing for upstream solutions as opposed to continuing to, you know, pay the downstream effects of really bad policy. So if there's anything that we can do to help kind of alleviate that pressure, because without a plan for that moving forward, this is only going to just continue to grow. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lougheed. Councillor Champagne.
Yeah, I've got one item, Kate. I guess the message or the question is to you, Greg. Jill LaBrush basically wrote a letter, and it goes back to the Algonquin land claim again. That Maple Lane that goes through there is on Crown land, correct?
Yes, as
Yes.
far as I remember, it is.
So I see you mentioned in there the one, which is kind of disheartening what's going on, especially with the Algonquin land claim. I guess they feel that if something happens with the land claim, that road will be deeded to them or will be deeded to themselves. And at the end of the day, I guess the question I'm asking, is it possible we can look at that and have the land, that roadway, the 6-foot road allowance, deeded to the municipality, even though it's not going to be maintained, but at least deeded to us?
So I'll turn it over to Monsieur Trottier.
Councillor Champagne, it's already been discussed with the residents and everyone's aware of it, that the roads will remain Crown property and not be transferred to the Algonquins. And then the question I would have is, why would the township want to assume the road? And this has been discussed before. So that's the info, is it is going to remain Crown land.
Oui, c'est bon. Before passing, Councillor Champagne. Yeah.
It's stuck in my mind is that why wouldn't it, you're saying, why wouldn't we? Like, why would we not? It's further down the line. If they brought it up to road standards themselves, then we would be maintaining it. But if it's not maintained right now, we wouldn't maintain it anyway, but it would be deeded to us. At least it'd be some kind of comfort to the people on Maple Lane, saying they're not going to get stuck there at some point where they know what they're doing. As long as you got this in writing, I've never seen this before, so maybe this was done before I got back on council, but I'm missing the point there.
So Mayor Rochford, go ahead, yeah.
No, go ahead, Mr. Trottier.
No, what I was gonna say, Councilor Champagne, is through the discussions with the negotiators and that, and there was a presentation made to council. There was a question and answer document that was provided to the public that's on our website. This has been cleared up many times that the road is gonna remain Crown property. So I don't know why anybody would still be concerned that it's gonna not remain Crown property. It's gonna be transferred to the Algonquins, but I guess if council's got an appetite that they want to assume the road, that's council's decision in a way, but technically it's not our choice right now. It's Crown land. It would be the township going to the Crown and saying, we want the road. There's
guess
no
the other-
option put on the table right now for us. That would be like us owning a road and someone comes to us and says, can I have your road? Right?
Yeah.
So that's where we're at.
I know where you're reading it, but you read down further down the line, they're talking about liability. So if somebody from the public drives down that road and something happens on that road that they're maintaining, who's gonna get, I guess their liability standpoint is that's what they're concerned about.
Crown.
Pardon me?
It would be the Crown's responsibility. It's their road.
Yeah, so that would be down that road would be the Algonquins. So we'd have to have something in writing saying, yeah, that we're liable for this, or they could stop it. I'm just worried about this whole process, the way it's been going for 12 years. I don't believe anybody anymore, actually. Not yourself. I don't believe what they're saying. I think Terry had a comment.
Thank you, Councillor Champagne. We, Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Champagne and I have been involved in this almost from the start for a long time now. And unless something's in writing and signed by a representative of our government, I believe nothing of what I hear. And I would trust our CAO with anything. Okay, it's nothing, this is not personal towards anyone. But we have seen so many changes and so many backflips on this file, it is ridiculous. So I know the people on these roads live in constant fear of being blocked access to their properties. And they've received no guarantees other than, oh, this should not happen. I mean, they've heard they weren't interested. Now they are interested. Now they're not. And the group that's representing I've yet to see anything in writing. But right now our residents are fearful that they are going to be denied access, or they're going to show up and have a toll road to go to their own properties. And that's just wrong. So and I know for a fact, and I think maybe a good cause to have a separate meeting with our residents and say, look, if you're willing to sign a document saying we take over the road, without any restrictions on us bringing the road up to par, I think they would be on board. Just from talking to a couple of the representatives, this is not the time for this discussion, but I understand where our residents are coming from, because they are not trusting our provincial government in these negotiations. They've heard too many stories, and the stories keep changing. That's
Thank you, Councillor.
That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Yvonne, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Champagne.
Not to go into a big debate, but I'm just trying to answer the letter that he's put forward. That's all. So he's got I believe he wants some kind of an answer. That's why I asked Greg if somewhere down the line, if they're going to turn over the lands, maybe it should be turning it over to the municipality, but it's still non-maintained. But anyway,
it's a good discussion. A couple of things I want to say. Jill Labrèche is a lady, and I'm very impressed with the quality of her writing. I want to say that. I'm not sure if she's watching, but it's not the first time that she has written to the municipality, Madame Labrèche, and she's always very thorough in her writing and her research. So I wanted to highlight that. And but personally, I was thinking about this situation, and in keeping with some of your comments, Councillor Champagne, and in fact, I think it would be wise, whether or not it serves us down the road in this situation, but I think in general, it would serve us well. A policy for assumption of private and unassumed roads. We don't have a policy. And so basically, we don't have any basis for which to say yes or no. So here we're making an argument that may have very legitimate reasons. And so we could have such items included in a policy. I went online today to see, I was surprised by the number of municipalities that do have such policies For example, I printed out the Kawartha Lakes and I can send it to you. It's well done. It protects the municipality. There's not an issue. There's no risk of us being bombarded. On the contrary, it provides definition, it provides clarity. So for example, if we were to say no, these are the reasons, and we could hand out our policy to people. If we wanted to say yes on the basis that you've argued tonight, we could have the necessary ammunition or support in there. And it outlines what would be the responsibility of citizens, what would be the responsibility of staff. And so maybe I'd like to suggest, as I said, I printed out Kawartha Lakes, I printed out North Frontenac, I looked at Blue Water, and there were others, but I particularly like Kawartha Lakes because it was more recent. But we could include it in the package on Friday. Madam Clerk would send it around. You could take a look at it and see if something like that might serve us. So we could start right now as we wait, as we're a little bit on, my understanding is from matters of the Algonquin land claim right now that they're somewhat on a standstill as the issues of membership are being reviewed at a provincial level. And so basically some of the issues that may have been raised here in our own community and potentially elsewhere in the province have caused now a delay as the Algonquins themselves, and some of you may be more informed than I, but that is what's been said to me, that there are no negotiations that are going on right now with the province or because things are under review amongst the Algonquins. So it would be a good time for us, to your point, Councillor Champagne, if we were to look ourselves. So maybe this would serve us later on down the line. We would have done the necessary work. So with that suggestion, I'd like to maybe put forth that we include this policy, and maybe I could put 2, and you could take a look at it on the weekend, and we can maybe see if that's something maybe our Public Works committee might want to pursue, and make it so that it fits our municipality.
I don't think it should fall under a roads committee. I think it should fall under planning. That's where it should go, and then comments from our CEO, obviously. I don't think if it goes to roads, that'll be down the road, I believe, right? If it's no cost to us, like first thing that's got to come out of the roads committee is going to say how much is it going to cost us. It's going to affect our budget. That's not what we want to do.
This is to provide
the lands are protected for our ratepayers that live down there. That's what basically the letter states, and that's basically what I'm bringing forward.
Okay, Monsieur Trottier.
Yeah, Mayor Rochford, I was going to say it's not really a planning committee item. I mean, if it's something that Greg and Antoine look at, that's different, but it wouldn't be the entire planning committee that would look at that type of policy. They're more application based, right?
Correct. So maybe at this point we'll circulate it, and maybe Monsieur Trottier, you could examine where this work would be carried out and how it could be carried out if we were. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Mayor Rochford, my thoughts are, is if you want to circulate it with the weekly report, and we put it down as an item on the next council meeting agenda. And if council then has an appetite for staff to look at a policy, then direct staff to come forward with a draft policy, and we'll take care of it internally. Who's looking at the policy?
Yeah. Thank you. I think that's well said. Yes.
Okay.
Wait, Councillor Kelly.
I'm in full agreement because it's going to be a council decision with the advice from senior staff.
Okay. All right. Okay. So on that note, thank you very much. Anything else? I guess that was Councillor Champagne. Anything else, Councillor Champagne?
No, that's good for me.
Okay, I simply wanted to mention about the, where's the item for prisoner transportation? Where was that? Oh, Ministry of Solicitor General. Sorry, item C. I simply wanted to suggest that be sent, that item C and D, to the Police Services Board. And so I've certainly read through the report, and I mean, we don't have large costs for municipal prisoner transportation, and this specific item no specific large costs that come to the municipality, but nonetheless we have to watch all the costs. And I thought this report is really well done, and it's recommending changes to the way the work is carried out so that there would be savings. And so it's good in that sense, but I think it should go to our Police Services Board and then maybe come back if there's any recommendations for council. Is that okay? Wait. Any comments? Okay. There being none, we will proceed then. And I just wanted to mention how it was good. We received a response from our MPP with respect to a resolution. So that was nice to see and it gives us some guidelines as well. So I was delighted with that particular response. So on that note, Madam Clerk.
I require a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Champagne and seconded by Councillor Lougheed. Did you have your hand up? Yeah. That council approved the correspondence and information as circulated with the agenda of February 8, 2022.
All in favor? Madam Lougheed, Councillor Lougheed? I think maybe she may be frozen. I would say
Yeah.
carried. There she is. Okay. Yeah. Okay, Seba. Okay, moving on. We come to a resolution for allowing applications to be made for minor variances and zoning bylaws. Where was that?
Require a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Kelly and seconded by Deputy Mayor Trahan. Whereas the Council for the Municipality of East Ferris passed bylaw number 2021-60, a new comprehensive zoning bylaw for the Municipality of East Ferris on January 11, 2022. And whereas bylaw number 2021-60 came into force and effect on February 4, 2022. And whereas section 34 bracket 10001 and section 45 bracket 1.3 of the Planning Act prevents an application for a zoning bylaw amendment or a minor variance to be made within 2 years of the date of passing of a new comprehensive zoning bylaw, be it hereby resolved that Council for the Municipality of East Ferris deems it desirable to allow applications to be made with regards to amendments to zoning bylaw number 2021-60 in accordance with section 34.10.002 and minor variances to zoning bylaw number 2021-60 in accordance with section 45 bracket 1.4 of the Planning Act prior to the 2 years of date of passing of the new comprehensive zoning bylaw 2021-60.
Monsieur Trottier, Mr. Curtin, did you want to make any comments before we ask for questions or vote?
If I may ask, Greg, can you just explain to council why we have to do this, and if we don't, what's the consequence, basically?
Sure, no problem. So this resolution is following up on discussion we had through the new zoning bylaw process about minor variance and zoning bylaw amendment applications. So in the past, there have been some examples in other municipalities where developers have abused the minor variance process in particular after getting new bylaws passed and basically turning around and applying for minor variances right away. And it's just a bit of a weird scenario, but anyways, in reaction to that, the province made amendments to the Planning Act that prevents anyone from applying for a minor variance or a zoning bylaw amendment within 2 years of a new comprehensive zoning bylaw taking place. And they also give municipalities the ability to waive that prohibition if they choose to do so. So the intention of those Planning Act provisions is to give the municipality the ability to choose whether they want those applications to be allowed or not. So what this resolution would do is basically allow people to come forward with applications for minor variance and zoning bylaw amendments. It doesn't say anything about whether those applications will be approved, and the review process would be the exact same as it currently is. So those applications for minor variance would go to the Committee of Adjustment for decision, and the applications for zoning bylaw amendment would go to Planning Advisory Committee for recommendation, and then they would come to Council for decision. This is strictly just allowing the applications to be made, which I think is the right decision to make, because we don't have those same type of decisions I described, or not decisions, but situations that I described. The prohibition was aimed primarily at larger Southern Ontario municipalities. So we don't have that type of situation, and we don't have the volume of applications. And we definitely have the ability to address applications on a case-by-case basis. So I think it would be too restrictive to not pass this resolution.
Thank you. Any comments or questions before we vote? All in favor? C'est bon, carry. Thank you so much. We move now to resolution with regards to the trade show and the recruitment of Karen Jones Consulting. Monsieur Trottier and Mr. Curtin? Do you want, we can table, well, let's table the resolution first. So very sorry, Madam Clerk.
I require a mover and a seconder. Moved by Deputy Mayor Trahan and Councillor Champagne. Whereas the East Ferris Municipal Trade Show will be held on Saturday, May 28, 2022 at the East Ferris Community Center. And whereas Karen Jones Consulting, Inc. has led the organization of the trade show for all past iterations, and that council deems it appropriate to continue to work with Karen Jones Consulting, Inc. for the 2022 trade show based on the relatively compressed timelines and their past experience running the event. Be it hereby resolved that Council for the Municipality of East Ferris encourage the services of Karen Jones Consulting, Inc. to organize and operate the 2022 East Ferris Trade Show for the same rate charge as the 2019 trade show.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Deputy Mayor Trahan, I suspect this recommendation is coming from the Economic Development Committee to proceed with the trade show, which is wonderful. And so I just wanted to mention that is the work of our committee. So
Yes, that's right.
yeah, okay.
There'll be
Mr.
probably
Curtin,
more information, or there'll be more information there that's going to follow.
okay. All in favor? C'est bon, carried. Thank you so much. Approval of accounts payable.
I require a mover and a seconder. Moved by Deputy Mayor Trahan and seconded by Councillor Kelly. The council approved the general accounts for the municipality of East Ferris as indicated in the check registers dated February 8, 2022 in the amount of $580,801.28.
All in favor? C'est bon, Councillor Lougheed, Councillor Kelly? Yeah, aye. C'est bon. And so on that note, there's no other business. We will proceed to in camera.
I require a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Champagne and seconded by Councillor Lougheed. No, it was Councillor Kelly. I apologize. That this meeting proceeds to in camera at 7:46 p.m. in order to address a matter pertaining to, and I would think from having a discussion with Jason that it's about proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality.
Correct, 239-2C, I believe.
I have that, yes. So it would be a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board.
Correct.
All in favor? C'est bon, carried.